Hi, I'm Amy Romeo, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this festive holiday house Christmas tree ornament for your home decor this year using faux leather, heat transfer vinyl, and a Cricut. Now, I'll be using my Cricut Maker, but you can use any of the current Cricut machines because they all cut faux leather with just the standard fine point blade. I have the SVG file for you, and I will leave a link to it if you want to get it and craft along with me. Now this has a faux leather base. I'm just using a solid color. You can use a solid or a print, and I will leave links to all of the tools and materials I'm using for this project. And then the heat transfer vinyl, I'm using a combination of glitter heat transfer vinyl, some solid, and then also some foil to create the little window shapes. And I'll show you in the video how to use the text tool if you'd like to add some optional personalization using heat transfer vinyl as well. So I'll be using my Cricut Maker for this project, but you can use any of the current Cricut machines because they all cut faux leather with the standard fine point blade. I'll use a purple mat for cutting the faux leather and a green mat for cutting the heat transfer vinyl. To press the vinyl onto the faux leather, I'll use my Easy Press Mini. You could use a larger Easy Press or heat press if that's what you have. And then I'll also have my heat protectant pad and a cover sheet. I'll use some blue painter's tape. This is going to help me get good cuts. You'll want a weeding tool of some kind. Some detail scissors are always great to have. And then we'll be gluing the front and the back of the ornament together. I'll be using Beacon Fabri-Tac, but you could use something like Bearly Art Glue. And I'll be showing you a really important trick to help you get an almost seamless edge on the side of your ornament when you've glued it. Finally, I'll show you how to tie up the top with some ribbon. So let's go ahead and hop into Cricut Design Space and we'll get started. Starting with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file for this project is saved on your device. Click on it to select it and then click Open. You'll see a preview of the project shapes. Click Continue and then Upload. So here you can see the very simple construction of the ornament. There is a front and a back shape that we'll cut from faux leather, which is light green in this image. And then we've got a couple different layers of heat transfer vinyl, and I'll show you those. So we have a layer of little bows for the windows. We have a layer of sort of silver or gray, and I cut that from foil iron-on to create the windows. Then we have a layer of a heat transfer vinyl for the roof line and the door. And then we have a layer of snow for the roof and also the bottom. Now I do want to show you how to add some text to the bottom of this if you want to. And I purposely designed this little snow at the bottom so it would fit text, or if you wanted to leave text off, the little ornament would look great without it also. So to add some text, I'm just going to click on the text tool, and that's going to throw up some default text for us. So let's just go ahead and type a family name here. And if you like this font, then you can absolutely keep it. You'll just want to make it a little smaller. You can make it smaller by changing the dimension here of the font up here, or you can drag it up in place, which is what I like to do, and then use these little corner nodules here to sort of drag it smaller and then get it in position. And I'm actually going to change the font, so I won't spend too much time playing with this one. Let's go ahead and click up here on the font selection, and I'm going to choose a font that I like to use a lot. It's downloaded to my system and it's from dafont.com, which is a free font website. I'll leave a link to it for you. But the font that I really like to use is called Hustle Bright. So I'm just going to search for it and click on it, and you can see now my text has been transformed into that new font. So I'll close that out and then just continue dragging this little bit smaller here, size it so it fits. And this is black, but I think I'm going to cut it from this same dark green. So to do that, I'm going to click on Material Colors here. Here's my little text line. I'm just going to drag this down to the dark green layer in my project. Now everything is going to cut on the same mat from the same color. So I'll go ahead and click the Make It button. We're cutting our materials on a mat. And then the first thing you want to do is go through and toggle the mirror button on for each mat because faux leather and heat transfer vinyl cut in reverse. And then I always like to go through and just drag my shapes away from the edges of the mat, the top and that side edge. And then here, I think I'm going to drag my text down here so that I can cut from a piece of heat transfer vinyl a little more efficiently. Now here for my faux leather mat, I'm just going to space these out a little bit. I don't want to go any wider than 9 inches in my case, since the faux leather I'm using is 9 inches wide. Here's those little window shapes, and I've connected them for you so they will be placed perfectly on your little faux leather base. And there we've got all of our little mats set up and ready to go. I'll click back on the faux leather mat, click continue. And the faux leather mat will cut from this faux leather paper thin cut setting. This is my preferred setting. If you don't have this one bookmarked as a favorite like I do, you can click on browse all materials and search for it. So I'll choose faux leather paper thin, and I always choose more pressure. Here's that reminder, we're just using the regular fine point blade that comes with all of the current Cricut machines. Now for the other heat transfer vinyl mats in the project, you'll want to use the manufacturer's recommended cut setting for the brand and type of heat transfer vinyl that you're using. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop back over to my overhead camera. We'll get all of our mats cut out, and then I'll show you how easy it is to assemble this really pretty holiday house ornament. So I've gone ahead and trimmed my larger piece of faux leather down to a smaller size, one that is big enough to cut out my 2 shapes for this project, but not a lot of excess faux leather. And that's because we're going to place this pretty side down on our purple strong grit mat, and we're going to tape it down all around, and that way our faux leather will not shift on the mat while the Cricut is cutting through it. Now the blue painter's tape can be reused quite a few times, so I'm just reusing a couple pieces here, and I'll grab a new one for this side. And I'll just make sure this is pressed down really well with my fingers. We already have our faux leather paper thin cut setting with more pressure ready to go, so I'll just load my mat into the machine and begin the cut. So my mat has cut one time, and I always recommend using a sharp weeding tool just to lift up the edge to see if the cut went all the way through. And you want to do that before you unload the mat, because if you need to repeat this cut, you can do that very easily just by pressing the cut button again, and that works many times as long as you haven't unloaded your mat. But this one looks good, so I'm going to unload the mat and remove my shapes. Just going to remove the shapes from the mat. Remember, you want to pop out that little hole at the top for the ornament ribbon. Now, if you have any little fuzzies on the edges of your faux leather, you can use your little curved scissors just to trim those away. Also, if your hole did not cut cleanly, you can use those little scissors there as well. Okay, so I'm going to put these to the side. I'm going to go ahead and quickly cut all of the heat transfer vinyl mats remaining in this project so that we can get right to me showing you how to assemble them and glue the ornament and finish it off. So I finished cutting and weeding all of the heat transfer vinyl layers for this project, and I have everything ready to go here on my work surface. I have my heat pressing pad, my cover sheet, which is a little Teflon sheet that I've trimmed smaller, and my Easy Press Mini set to the low setting, which is that first green line. If you're using a regular heat press or Easy Press, I would set it to 265 degrees to press your heat transfer vinyl onto faux leather. So there will be a little graphic inside your download folder called a layering guide, and it's going to show you the order in which to press the layers of heat transfer vinyl onto the faux leather. You can also look in Design Space and sort of drag the layers apart. Now you'll want to make sure you start with the correct faux leather base. So you'll want to choose the shape that has the chimney on the left-hand side and just set the other one aside for now. So you will see on your layering guide that the first layer we need to press is the window layer. However, you might be wondering, how do we know exactly where to put the window layer? Because we don't have any frame of reference on this shape. So I'm going to show you a little trick called dry fitting. What we're going to do is, since we know this window layer fits inside these windows frames, what we're first going to do is place our window frame layer on top of the window layer and line those up perfectly. Kind of press them together a little bit. Your heat transfer vinyl has a sticky backing, so they should stick together at least temporarily. You can also look on the back and make sure they're lined up neatly like that. And then holding these together, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to line up my glitter snow layer here, which does have points of reference for me. So we've got the bottom snowdrift here that we can line up. We've got the little top snow on the chimney, and we've got the snow on the roof lines here. So now that I've got that in place, I'm going to kind of press this down, and then I'm going to very slowly peel away the snow layer while holding down the window layer. And now we know exactly where to press this window layer. So I'm going to make sure we don't move it. Cover it with my little cover sheet. You could also use butcher paper or parchment paper for this. And now I'm just going to cover and press. I want to get about 10 seconds of good pressure on all the little heat transfer vinyl areas. Now this is foil iron-on. I use the Cricut brand foil iron-on, but lately it's been out of stock. So this is actually Tech Wrap Craft foil iron-on in silver or chrome, and I'll leave a link to this for you. This is a really nice product. It's just a little thicker than regular foil iron-on. I like to let it cool just a little bit before I start to peel. Now I'm going to very slowly peel back this clear carrier sheet. And as I'm peeling, if you see any lifting, like this is lifting down here, then that tells me this is not ready for me to peel. So I'm going to cover and press some more, I would say 5 to 10 seconds. And then I'm going to let this cool by putting it underneath my heat pressing pad, and we will try and peel it once more. So I've pressed the foil iron-on down, and I found with foil iron-on especially, it's great to let this cool completely before we try and peel away the clear carrier sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and let this cool for about 60 seconds, and then we'll come back and we will try and peel away that clear carrier sheet layer. So this has had some time to cool. So what I'm going to do is try and keep my faux leather flat with one finger and then just very slowly peel away this clear carrier sheet with my other hand. Just peeling very slowly. And the reason we want to keep the faux leather flat is so you don't get wrinkles in that pretty foil, which can ruin the mirror finish. Now, when you started peeling the clear carrier sheet, you saw that your heat transfer vinyl underneath was lifting up or bubbling or wrinkling, then you can just place the carrier sheet right back down and cover and press some more. But this looks pretty good. So the next layer that we're going to do is the roof line layer. And you might be wondering why I did not connect the name text here with this layer, attach them in Design Space so that they will cut together and be pressed in one layer. And that's because this layer, the roof and the door, gets pressed first, and the name is actually going to be pressed after we do this layer, and you'll see what I mean. So let's just line this up. Again, we're looking for a frame of reference to know where to place this. I always make sure that you have some way of knowing where to place your layers so your design comes out beautifully. So I'm lining up this roof line here. When I line up the roof line, then that little door will pop right into place. And that looks good. So again, I'll just cover and press. Again, we're going to just peel very slowly. There we go. So now we're on to our fun glitter snow layer. So this one will be very easy to line up. And you should be able to see the foil iron-on of those little windows inside of the frames perfectly, and the little door slats also inside the door frame. So again, we're going to just very slowly peel. Your faux leather will be warm, so be careful. And that's looking really cute. So the last thing we need to do is put the little bows on the windows and put the name at the bottom. So these are already connected, as you saw in Design Space. So all you need to do is line up the center of the bow with the little center of the window panes. Now this glitter heat transfer vinyl, it may leave behind some little flecks of glitter, but don't worry about those when they dry and they're nice and cool. You can usually just flick them off with your fingernail, or you can very carefully pick them off with your little sharp weeding tool. So the name layer, and then we are all finished. And that's that. Isn't that cute? So I'm going to place this underneath my heat pressing pad to let it cool nice and flat, because it is warm and it will curl if it cools without something heavy on top of it. So I'm going to let that cool for about a minute or two while I get set up to show you how to glue and then tie on the little ribbon. So my little pressed shape here has had a few minutes to cool nice and flat, and I am ready for gluing. So I have my Fabri-Tac ready to go. What I love about Fabri-Tac is it spreads very smoothly and evenly, and it's very easy to wipe up off the sides of the faux leather if it seeps out of the edges. You could use something like Barely Art Glue. I find that Barely Art Glue absorbs a little bit more into the back of the faux leather, so you might need to apply it on the back and then apply it one more time before you glue your pieces together. But I also have a heavy book, because this is the important step for helping us get that really nice seamless edge that I showed you at the beginning. So you're just going to turn over one of your sides here and then use your glue and spread it all over the back. I start at the edges, and you want to get close to the edge but not all the way to the edge, because this glue will seep to the edge a little bit, which is what we want, again, to help us get that nice firm seal. So just go all the way around, then start filling in. I'm often asked about using something like E6000. I find that E6000 is a little too gloopy or lumpy when we press the faux leather together. You really want a glue that's going to be nice and smooth and flat when you press these two surfaces together. So now all I need to do is take my little front shape, put it on top. You're going to press it down preliminarily, little press, and then I like to pick it up and use my fingers to get all those little areas neatly pressed together. Just kind of wiggle with your fingers, check on the back, and then you can also look and see if there's any glue sort of leaking out of the side, which you can just wipe away with your fingers. Now you'll notice that, for example, right up here, you can see that those two pieces of faux leather are still open and apart. That's because we need that extra pressure of putting this underneath our heavy book. So I'm going to go ahead and put this underneath my heavy book and let it dry flat for at least an hour. And when it does, that's how we get this really nice stiff ornament with that beautiful finished edge. See how thick it is? Very stiff. Okay, so the last step is just tying on the ribbon. So you can very easily just tie this through, loop it through like that, and make a little bow at the top. However you'd like to tie these. I like to loop them this way. I can't remember where I saw this trick, but I think it's pretty cool. And if I'm making a lot of these, I will tie my loop around an object so that my little loops are always the same shape. So you want your loop to be about 4 inches, or really it can be anything you want, but I like to make mine about 4 inches. So I'm just wrapping it around this little box here, and I'm going to just tie one little loop here and then tie it again. So it's basically a double knot. Maybe it's just a single knot. Just like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and just make a little bow here. So I've got my little bow. And I'm going to use my curved scissors here just to trim these little ribbon ends off into little points. I'll just slide this off. And now I want the little bow to be down here at the bottom. So the little bow is at the roof line. So this is really easy to do. All I'm going to do is push this loop through the hole at the top. And we get that cute little bow. Easy peasy. So here's another look at the finished holiday house ornament. I really hope you enjoy this project and you personalize one of these with your family name. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.